Hello everybody, this is Albert with Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about the most overlooked of the 6 categories that come from the tea plant. Now before we begin, if you haven't been here already, come visit us here in New Braunfels, Texas. We're in a little hamlet called Greene, halfway between San Antonio and Austin. Come visit us. Also subscribe right now and hit the notification bell so the algorithm will pick up this channel and we can get this information out to more people. Now, we've had, as of recording this, probably when this comes out, the tea shop would have been open over a year. And I did an episode after this place was open for about 1 month, and it was 2 shocking trends that I've noticed with the store only being open 1 month. And I'm not going to give away those 2 things. But I've noticed trends for sure after a year of being open. And I think there is definitely one category of tea that people overlook. And I'm going to tell you what it is. Now, of course, refresher. Tea comes from Camellia sinensis, the tea plant, and there's 6 categories that come from it. Green, yellow, which are both 0% oxidized, white, which is about 5% oxidized, oolong, which is anywhere from 50 to 70% oxidized, black, which is 100% oxidized, and then dark teas, most famously pu'er, which is fermented. Now, we're going to throw out yellow as an overlooked category because yellow is a rare category of tea. So everyone's overlooking yellow, and yellow is sublime. Okay, so we're going to throw that one out. So when people come into the tea shop, of course, I kind of address the table with them and tell them what tea is this, what categories it is, and all this. And as I would expect, the large majority of people who are tea drinkers or who would acknowledge that they're tea drinkers gravitate toward black teas because that is a patrimony that we got from England. When people think of tea, they're going to think of black tea either because of iced tea, which of course comes from black tea, or Earl Grey, English breakfast blend, a cinnamon spice, an Irish breakfast blend, or whatever. These are they're just the most common connections to tea is going to be black tea. So that one, of course, is not overlooked at all. And in fact, when people come, it's almost always black tea or the tisanes / the herbals, or maybe the greens. Green tea. Now, we do monthly tea education classes here, and the one we did in June of 2024, right after we opened, was titled Rehabilitating the Image of Green Tea. And the reason I called it that, because a lot of Americans don't like green tea, and green tea is sublime. The reason they don't like green tea is because they don't know how to brew it. They've brewed it at full boil, probably for at least 5 minutes, using Lipton or Tetley tea bags. All those things are going to make it really astringent and disgusting. But that being said, as a whole, I don't think Americans are overlooking green tea. They're pretty familiar with green tea, and if anything, when they hear the 2 words green tea, they think, oh, that's healthy. So that's not the category. So what do we have left? We have white oolongs and pu'er. Now, when I go through the table and I explain to them pu'er is fermented, it's good for gut health, it's helped with bloating and indigestion, surprisingly, people gravitate toward pu'er. And pu'er, I would say, of all the categories, is probably the second most consumed category here at this tea shop. Now, I've made a lot of blends. We have, I think, 7 different pu'ers. So we have a bird's nest pu'er, tuocha, which is very earthy. And then we have a regular loose leaf pu'er. And then we have a ginger peppermint pu'er, ginger turmeric pu'er, green ginger pu'er, which is green tea with ginger pu'er, and dark chocolate vanilla pu'er. That's the sweet one. So people will drink these things. So that category is not overlooked. They might not know about it when they walk in, the typical person that comes in here from Texas, but they'll try it. So that leaves whites and oolongs. Now, when I would say these are pretty equal, but I would say like the name white tea and the name oolong tea is probably going to be equally familiar to the typical tea drinker. And I would say the typical tea drinker out of those, when push comes to shove, has probably had a white tea before that they've had an oolong. Normally, the white tea that they're drinking is not Silver Needle or some high-level white tea. It's going to be, peach white tea or something like that. But at least they've had it. So I would say the overlooked category is oolong. And I would tell you as well, like we talked about how oolong is the most amazing category of tea in terms of range of taste. Why? Because oolong, as I mentioned earlier, goes from 15 to about 70% oxidation. So you get this wide range of taste. The visual aesthetics of oolong tea are amazing, much more beautiful than the other categories of tea because Most of the oolongs are wrapped in beautiful knots, so when you steep them, they're going to open up, and you can play with the leaf and stretch out the leaf if you want to stretch it out to look at the true tea leaf, the Camellia sinensis tea leaf. And it's a category of tea that most Americans have not heard of. They might have heard of the word oolong, but most of them have heard of green, white, black. But oolong is one where when I show them on the table, they just overlook it and skip it. And part of me is like, oh, you're breaking my heart, because oolongs taste, honestly, I would say, amazing. They are probably the most flavorful category of tea out of all 6 of them. And people overlook them. So we have a Dongding, which is a high mountain Taiwanese oolong. We have Oriental Beauty, which is a well-known Taiwanese, more oxidized oolong. We have Iron Goddess of Mercy, which is the famous oolong that the oolong category is named for. Black Dragon is another name for Iron Goddess of Mercy. And so oolong's named after that. And we have a couple other ones. And I think people just don't pick oolongs because they're not familiar with them. They look at these names like, what's this dong ding ding dong? What's this? What's this? They're not familiar with it. And so they don't even open the canisters and smell them. They're going to go straight to the blacks, straight to the tisanes, and maybe the pu'er. And I just, I'll explain to them, it's like, oolongs are amazing. Give them a shot, especially do them in a flight. And when people drink oolongs, they like them. But as a whole, they're like the fibula of the lower leg. The tibia gets all the attention, the fibula doesn't. Or the ugly stepsister or something like that of a family where the beautiful sister gets all the attention and the other one doesn't. Oolongs just get neglected on the table. Guys, post in the comments. What's your take on oolong? Do you love oolongs? I'd love to hear from you. If you don't agree that you think it's the most overlooked category, aside from yellow, out of the 6 categories, please post in the comments. Until next time, take care. God bless.